word to wise. Grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple light.
Before we get started, it only takes 2 clicks to become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers. Click, click. Before we jump into today's comic, I wanted to talk to you about an app that I found called Amino. Amino is this really cool community app. I was able to meet all sorts of people and find all sorts of crazy content that, I really enjoy. I think it's no small secret on this channel that I'm a huge fan of comics. I love wrestling, tokusatsu, anime, manga, and of course, I was able to find all sorts of awesome people who are into the same things that I'm into. And I even got to contribute on some level to a lot of the stuff that's going on in all the different communities. You'll even be able to find people that you know, and you can add them as friends. You can also follow people who have similar interests as you and check out all the awesome stories that they make. So you should go download the Amino app right now so you can follow me and check out my awesome stories. But until then, let's get into the video. What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be covering what I feel is the final, maybe, video for War of the Realms. Everything else is going to be kicking off new series. I may or may not touch on those because I'm not going to lie, there's a lot of other books coming out I need to address. And I have spent so much time on War of the Realms that, man, it just, time to put it to bed, baby. This time, I know I said it ain't ever going to be over. I know I said it ain't ever going to be over. But we should probably make it be over. Just this once. We're going to be covering Thor number 15 by Jason Aaron and Mike Del Mundo, but War of the Realms Omega number 1 has a lot of writers and artists on it, so I want to make sure I give credit where credit is due. So, War of the Realms Omega number 1 has writing credits by Jason Aaron, Al Ewing, Daniel Kibblesmith, and Jerry Dugan, and we have art by Ron Garney, Cafu, Oscar Bazaldua, and Juan Ferreira. So yeah, there you go. This is why I keep notes. Anyways, in this video, we're pretty much going to talk about what is the aftermath of War of the Realms, where everybody is at right now, at least as far as the players we're aware of, Thor's new status quo, and what happened to Malekith. It's going to be easier to talk about this if we just talk about War of the Realms Omega number 1, because that kind of is the overarching bit. Even though it's not, I feel, not as interesting as what's going on in Thor number 15, it still helps to kind of give a little framing, because we know that Daredevil has now given up Heimdall's sword. Not something he actually wanted to do, mind you. He even admits this, that he actually wrestled with the idea of keeping it, because now that he is about to give it up, he realizes what he is passing up on, the fact that he, as a man of faith, as a man of God, he became a god. He was the god without fear, and by Heimdall's own admission, he was good at it. And Daredevil, he doesn't want to give it up. He wants to give it up, but he doesn't want to give it up. But ultimately, he gives it up. But Heimdall does offer him one final request in using the sword, and it is that he is going to show Daredevil kind of what is going on with everybody in War of the Realms post War of the Realms. We learned that, of course, we knew Jane Foster was going to be getting her own series as Valkyrie, and I saw in one of the last videos there was someone that was complaining about how, oh, she's just Witchblade now, and it's like, I guess. The Mjolnir of the Ultimate Universe, or what is now called Underyarn, the all weapon, that has now melted down. It's basically the sum total of the hammer itself from the Ultimate Universe, that it could honestly take any shape that it wants, and it has taken any shape that Jane Foster wants. It can be whatever she wants it to be. And now that she has this back in her possession, she has now been tasked with a quest at the body of Brunhilde. Brunhilde's spirit, her Valkyrie spirit, raises, and she has basically been tasked to guard the realm of the living and the realm of the dead and everything in between. She is to be as feared as death, as needed as rest, and as strong as grief. And basically, this is her new task, to wield Underyarn and defend the worlds of the living and the dead. And somewhere in the middle of all that, maybe find a resting place for the Valkyrie. I'm kind of here for it because I think it's no small secret on this channel. I talk about it sometimes, which, by the way, I do have some videos I need to release regarding this matter, but I love tokusatsu, I love Super Sentai, I love Kamen Rider, and that's kind of what this reminds me of. I mean, yeah, I can see the Witchblade parallel, don't get me wrong, I see it. I just don't care. Because to me and my sensibilities, I love nothing more than a hero who is just a normal person who otherwise changes or and transforming into a more powerful version of themselves. I'm here for it, and I kind of want to see where this, is going to go. Now, the whole deal with her, charging out with, the Valkyrie or spears, kind of riding out on their, on their Pegasi and all the other stuff, I think that part's cool. I don't know how much of a thing that's going to play into, but I'm really curious to see where Jane Foster goes from here. Now, we also know that your boy Loki, he's back. He's killed his father Laufey. He even gave up Heimdall's blade, which he very well admits he could have kept. And he's even kind of mused about how he may go back and get Mjolnir. But he right now is wielding Jarnbjorn, and he has returned to his home of Jotunheim, and basically to not the warmest of receptions. I mean, honestly, by blood right, by tradition, he is now the king of the Frost Giants because, one, he defeated their king, and two, he is the son of Laufey, whom he killed. So by just sheer tradition alone, he is king, though no one really accepts him as king. But one of the things I like about this is that, during his visit to Jotunheim, he encounters a frost giant, Durf, who kind of reminds him of himself. It's this young frost giant who technically is older, but is a runt, just like how he was. He is considerably smaller than any other frost giant, even by a child's standards. And he likes to have fun, which technically to the other giants comes off as mischief. And even this little boy Durf, he has kind of been raised to believe, yes, this is mischief, but in some ways, it's just simply fun. And yeah, in this story, it's kind of up and down. It has its moments, but I like what it's setting up. It's setting up the fact that Loki is basically trying to affect change. He knows what's coming. He knows that, the All Butcher, at the end of time, his future self is on the way. He knows what's going to happen. But I feel like Loki is trying to do as much good as humanly possible while he still has time. And that's really cool, because Durf, what he does is he basically raises Durf's station. Even though, yeah, the other frost giants, they think of him as small, diminutive. They don't really see him as much. However, during an encounter with the frost giants, Loki kind of accidentally embiggens him. He's actually trying to, I think, embiggen both of them, or maybe just himself. But through some weird twist of fate, because Durf gets involved and kind of tries to stop Loki, he accidentally gets embiggened, and Durf stands up to his own father and the other frost giants, and this kind of helps raise his station in the eyes of the other frost giants, and also raises his station in the eyes of Loki himself, who was already kind of fond of him to begin with. And what Loki realizes that, maybe, just maybe, what if I can affect this change? What if I can take this child who reminds me so much of myself, who could probably be a better version of myself, and I have now essentially placed him as my right hand. He is now the hand of the king. He has been elevated to a status where none of the other frost giants will dare mess with him for fear of angering Loki. He is protected now. And then also you gotta take into consideration the fact that he also is grooming him to become a future king. A king who, by his own admission, he says, does not rule by blade, but rules by shield. And what he means by that is that, yes, Laufey was a blunt instrument. He was a weapon. He was always about war. He wanted to rule everything. But what if the Frost Giants of Jotunheim, for the first time in ages, could be ruled by somebody who doesn't want to seek out the fight? What if he could have somebody in charge who would rule in a way that is just, that is fair, that is kind-hearted, more reactive than aggressive? And that's the seed that's kind of being planted here. And once we pick up with Punisher, who we also know he's going to get his own series as well, Punisher Kill Crew, basically what's going on here is that, he's just walking around. He's basically taking out the last pieces of what's left of Malekith's army still on Midgard, and I mean he's piecing them up pretty well. He even pulls up on some Asgardians and sets the record straight with them that, like, dude, y'all are out here messing up. Y'all are supposed to be out here saving humanity, and y'all are sitting here drinking. Well, there's still a job to be done. And even Thor has to come down and put some respect on his name and get these guys back to work. And when Frank Castle walks off, he goes and finds the man who he helped in the first issue of War of the Realms, Punisher #1, and the man who he made the promise to about killing the monster who killed that man's family. And come to find out, he says, yeah, I'm gonna have to travel because that monster is no longer here on Earth. He has returned to Jotunheim. So Punisher is about to travel beyond the boundaries of Midgard. He is about to travel to Jotunheim to track this monster down. And not only that, but Punisher's hit list has become that much bigger because apparently there are more monsters out there for Punisher to take down, as the man reveals to him a van full of children, which is just kind of problematic in its own right, but just the same, a van full of children who have also been orphaned by these monstrous creatures who came through the Black Bifrost during the War of the Realms. And basically now Punisher is about to play a little monster hunter in the 10 Realms. And once Heimdall gives Daredevil this update, we learn that, he's also going to give him a parting gift. He actually had the dwarves of Nidavellir make Daredevil his own little batons, his own little Eskrima sticks, made in the same vein as all the hammers that Thor had made, when he got this whole Thor relaunch with Marvel Fresh Start. So now Daredevil will have these powerful weapons. I don't know how long that's gonna last or if it'll lead to the stick. We don't really know yet. And we don't really know what these sticks can do. We don't even really get to see it, but I'm here for it. I'm here for it. The real main meat of the matter is Thor, and Thor is kind of the thing I think everyone's kind of worried about. They're like, oh, well, what's with Thor now? Is he king? He's all father. What's going on? The problem is that Odin is bending the knee. He is putting respect on Thor's name. But the problem with that is Thor don't want it. The burden of being worthy, the burden of being king, it is weighing heavy on him. An old saying of mine that I've always loved is that heavy is the head that wears the crown. The person who is charged is always going to have the most burden. It's something that even Nick Fury kind of echoed in Spider-Man Far From Home. But the thing is, he doesn't want any of it. He doesn't want the responsibility, and not only that, even if he takes it, he doesn't know what he's going to do with it. And while he is kind of wedged between his future self and his younger self, both bickering over what Thor's next move should be, or, whether or not he should even make a move at all, Thor realizes that if he is going to do this, he can't do it alone. He doesn't want to rule solely by himself. He wants to be surrounded by people who he can trust. And this is also a cool moment too, because we learn that Odin does finally say some words that he doesn't really ever often say, and then he does admit actually embracing all three versions of Thor that are still remaining, both King Thor, Young Thor, and, well, now presently, All-Father Thor. He embraces them, saying that he is so proud of him because he recognizes all of the character growth that Thor has gone through from 2012 all the way to 2019. And what Thor realizes he's going to do, and I don't know if this so much bodes for King Thor and Young Thor, but I know that he has brought Freya and Odin by his side, and he wants to return all of the gods back home. Is he going to rebuild Asgard? Kind of, but it looks like what he's going to do is try and make something new, or at the very least do Asgard in a way that it wasn't done before. Something that kind of goes back to his time during the Thor God of Thunder series, where he faced off against Gore the God Butcher, where most of the gods were butchered. And I'm pretty sure what he's going to try and do here is he's going to try and create, I guess what was kind of joked about in Game of Thrones. He may try and create not so much a monarchy, but a democracy, if you will, more or less. At least that's what it seems to be leading towards. Now, the real question is, what is going on with the man we once referred to as Fade Master Mal, who got his high and tight in War of the Realms #6? What happened to Malekith? Well, come to find out, Malekith has returned to Niflheim, and he is greeted by none other than Hela and Carnilla, who are just so pleased to see him. They realize that, yeah, you busted out of this L7 square back in Thor God of Thunder Volume 3, The Accursed. Not only did you do that, but you circumvented the rules of the 10 realms. You circumvented everything to get free and run roughshod across the 10 realms. And you know what? There is a punishment. A punishment must fit the crime. And at the time, Malekith, he is still talking spicy, still talking bold. He is telling them that, look, even if you put me back in the Tower of Nastron with all those giant spiders, it is not going to break me. And Hela's like, no, we're not doing that. The dogs of war, the hounds of war that I brought to bear against Midgard and that turned on me and ripped me to shreds. We also learned that the hounds that killed Malekith at the end of War of the Realms #6, well, apparently they ate some of the parts of him that were poisoned by dark magic, and they died as well. But come to find out, since they died, they are also in Niflheim, and they pull up on your boy Malekith, and this is where Malekith's like, oh, so you're gonna bring back these hounds so that they can just eat me for eternity? No, this will still not break me. And Hela and Carnilla both are like, no, that's not what we had in mind. What did they have in mind exactly? What they did is they had brought forth the part of Malekith that he doesn't want to lose. They bring back the child that we saw. I want to say this was in Thor number 11 or 12, I want to say it was. They bring back the child version of Malekith who we saw, who was sold into slavery and basically forced to burn the dead bodies and slave his way through existence long before he was ever an evil person, back when he was still technically kind of pure of heart. And what they do, it's almost kind of a trick because you don't really see this coming. What they plan to do is they plan to force Malekith to watch as the hounds have their way with his younger self. They want to take away something from Malekith that makes Malekith, because you gotta remember, his time as that little boy, that is what turned him into the monster that he is today. That is what turned him into the creature of war that he is today, and why he has always been just frothing at the mouth to cause nothing but war and discord throughout the 10 realms. Well, come to find out, if they kill that, that would be torture to Malekith because he knows if he loses that part of himself, he knows what he will become. And of course, they sew his eyes open, crucify him to a slab, and force him to watch as the hounds pounce upon his younger self. They do not kill the child. They simply play with him. This is a fate worse than death for Malekith because, yeah, you would think, yeah, these hounds, they're going to attack the little boy. They are going to kill him, but they don't. Hela and Karnilla create this kind of paradise for them right before Malekith's eyes. While Malekith is still trapped in the frozen lands of the dead, he is watching them in this Alfheim-like scape. He's watching them play and frolic and roll around. The hounds aren't even giant hounds anymore. They're little puppies. And this young version of Malekith is basically being rehabilitated. Because yeah, Hela and Karnilla could have easily had the dogs kill the boy. And who knows, maybe they didn't. This is just an illusion. But honestly, destroying the child that Malekith was doesn't always have to come down to death and brutalization. It could just as easily be something as simple as changing his nurturing. I talked about this during the video where I talked about Thor number 13, where I talked about how a lot of what informs who a person is nature versus nurture, and that kind of came up with the Dark Elf children of Svartalfheim that Kull Borsun saved. That they didn't want to be like every other Dark Elf. They didn't want to be evil. They wanted to just be normal. And come to find out, that story arc is actually coming back and paying some dividends here. What happens to Malekith if the child that he was becomes a better person? Doesn't grow up to become a monstrous sorcerer like the Malekith we have before us. What's gonna happen here? Is Malekith gonna be rehabilitated? I don't know. But the thing is, I'm very curious to wait around and see what happens next. That's everything that happened in War of the Realms, Omega number 1, and Thor number 15. So anyways, let me know what you thought about it. Do you like the setup? Do you like where it's going? Do you hate it? I don't know. You maybe hate it. I don't know. I loved it. Usually when I love stuff, people hate it. But anyways, let me know what you think. Sound off in the comments. So hey, you made it to the end of the video. Awesome for you. If you enjoyed this video, and if you made it this far, I don't see how you didn't, do me a favor. Hulk smash that like button. And if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you click subscribe so you can become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers, and tap that bell so you know when I post up. Also, feel free to go check out my Patreon, where if you chuck in a buck, you can get early access to most of my videos up to a week early. And if you have time, make sure you swing by nerd901.com, where you can find more of my content as well as other amazing stuff. Anyways, until next time, I love you 3000 plus Ultra!